Hello and welcome to Finextra TV. I'm Nilixa Devlukia and you join us here at the Digital Assets Forum in London. With me right now is Nilixa Devlukia, the EMEA Policy Advisor for the Global Blockchain Business Council. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Liam.
Now, if we talk about risk management, particularly the frameworks that need to be put in place for blockchain, they're very important, but is it an area where we know what needs to go in these frameworks? Is it something we can borrow from, for example, open source and cloud frameworks? How does that work?
It's obviously a really important topic, particularly when we look at the ecosystem within financial services, and we're seeing more and more interaction of end users, whether it's consumers or businesses, wanting to use either blockchain technology or not knowing that what they're doing is underpinned by blockchain technology. And we see more and more firms and jurisdictions thinking about regulation in this space. And I think the starting point, and it's something that we've worked on at GBBC, is looking at what can you actually take from traditional ecosystems. If you're looking at financial services, there are lots of well-known operational frameworks for risk management, and particularly in the non-financial risks. You can look at what's existing in TradFi and what does it read across. And I think that there are three categories of risk that you can look at, and this is how we framed our risk mitigation framework work. It's what can you read across, what needs to be adapted, and what is novel. And if you look at public permissionless blockchains, there are read across. If you look at human resource, if you look at matters like fraud, if you look at compliance frameworks, then they can all be very similar because they all have to meet certain standards. Then you can look at what needs to be adapted. And I think a key example of something like that is legal frameworks. The risk between TradFi and decentralised technology is different, but legal frameworks, however they're constructed, underpin them both. And then you need to look at novel risks. So what is very different in the blockchain world and that is in the traditional world? And examples of that are node operators or 51% attacks. And the work that the GBBC did was to look at these three buckets and then look at what can stay the same, what needs to be adapted, and what is novel and needs new considerations.
Interesting, and obviously you mentioned a little bit there this crossover between TradFi and DeFi. It's an interesting sort of relationship because DeFi space was all about being decentralized and being away from a sort of overarching governor. So how does this approach to framework work for those sort of original players in the game that are perhaps a little bit more afraid of rules and regulations?
Well, I think there's been a sea change in that there was the view that this was the Wild West, and regulators took the view that we should leave it, it's not going to be something that comes into the mainstream. But we've seen that change, and we've seen large institutions wanting to adopt this type of technology for improved services, for faster settlement, for faster payments. I think it's now a case of regulators looking at this space and thinking, what can we regulate? What should we regulate and what should be left outside of the perimeter? And of course, when you have totally decentralized and you don't have an entity or a body in which there is a hook in order to place an obligation, that will continue to be out of the regulated ecosystem. But as the ecosystems between blockchain and traditional merge, as they become closer, then I think that the adoption will see a more regulated ecosystem emerging.
Really interesting stuff. And I guess, what do you think is the overarching impact of this merging of the two? And is it a positive thing, I guess?
Personally, yes, it's absolutely positive because this new technology does bring with it the benefits of faster settlement, faster payments, transparency, but transparency where you also have to manage the privacy obligations and traceability. And particularly within financial services, that has got to be beneficial when you look at the challenges we actually see in the traditional financial services sector as well. But we're not there yet. it's an ecosystem that is still evolving, an ecosystem that is already global, but is bringing with it challenges on how do we put a wrapper around it that makes it safe and secure for everybody.
I think that's a really nice point to end on there. So thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.